All right, good morning, everybody. Happy Monday. We have a lower body strength and core workout today. For equipment, you guys are going to need specifically this here chair. We're going to be using it for some split squats and some hip thrusts. In addition to that, I have my loop bands, my 8-pound dumbbells, my mat, and my body. So let's get this party started. We're going to come down onto the floor. Just got Bobby hopping in here. Good morning, Bobby. Okay, so we're down on the floor, laying on our back, warming our whole body up with us lifting up one leg, grabbing that knee with opposite hand, exhaling and trying to bring that knee all the way down onto the floor, not spending any time. We'll just reach that point, come back up, and then do that on the other side. So I'm just gonna actually switch over a little so I have a bit more room. So we'll exhale, bring it across, wherever you end up. We will go through 10 of those total, 5 per side, alternating right side, left side, working with whatever range of motion that you guys have. And as you go through them, I'm standing up, you might be able to get a little bit closer down to the floor on each side. So you get a nice opening through your spine, your hips, your chest. Next one, you guys can come up and join me into this 90-90 position. So this is one that we work on pretty much every week because that's the only thing that's going to get us more comfortable and improve our mobility in this position. It's kind of what we're going for. So 90 degrees at both of our knees. We want the bottom of the foot in line with the shin. We'll try to lock both feet in place and flip the knees over right and left. So we'll go through 10 of these total, 5 each way. If you need a little bit more comfort, you can lean back slightly, put your hands down on the floor. Eventually the goal is to do this with the hands up like this, trying to get both our butt cheeks on the floor. So we'll go through 10 of these total, and then we shall stand up to the top for the next one. Next ones. Okay, so we'll go through those, 10 of them, and then you guys can join me up at the front of your mat, standing hip width apart, your feet, arms down by our sides. We'll step back into a lunge, send both our arms up above our head, turn in once towards the knee, reset, and then come back up to the top. So 5 per side, 10 total on these ones. Trying to separate these two movements, the lunge and the twist. We'll lunge down, turn in once, reset, and then stand back up to the top. So 10 of those total, 5 per side. There it is. Nice work, you guys. Okay, so we'll stay in that same positioning in our feet for this next one, which is that hip width stance. We're going to stick arms above our head, soften out our knees, standing up nice and tall, and work with that overhead hip hinge. So I'm trying to push my hips back and then pull my hips forward. And I never want to see my hands because my arms are going to stay so straight and so extended above my head that we'll go through 15 of these total, 1, 5, 15. And we'll try to feel that nice opening stretch through the back of the legs and then a squeeze on your butt to lift you up to the top. So we'll get you guys going through 15 of these guys. And we should never see those hands. Trying to keep the arms straight. There it is. Very nice. Okay, so we'll get you guys 15 of those. And then we are headed back down onto the floor for the next one. We will be going into our all 4 position. So once we're done our hip hinges, we will join me down here in this all 4 position. This one is all about warming up and activating the muscles in your abs and your core. So we're going to get into this off-knee position with the shoulders stacked over the wrists, hips over the knees, and then we're going to just pop off the knees. This is our starting point. Trying to lift opposite hand, opposite foot. The first few might be a little wobbly, but as you go through these, you don't need too much lift, just a little bit. We'll try to keep our body as stable as possible through our hips and our core. That's the goal on this one. So we'll try to go through 10 of these total, 5 per side. And again, we'll try to slow down a little bit so that we don't have any shifting or moving happening in our body and our hips. 10 of those, a little bit harder than they look. Once you guys are done, we're going to stand up and finish you off with our last exercise in our warm-up, which is all about your butt, your glutes, making sure it's all fired up back there. So when you guys are finished up, we'll come up and stand back into that hip width stance in our feet, soft knees, and then we'll hinge our hips back, shifting all of the weight onto one leg, and then sending that leg that we're not standing on back behind us. We'll pull those hips forward and do 10 reps of this hip-loaded step through. We've got a little extra something once we're done 10, so you guys can start this now, or we're pushing our hips back, pulling our hips forward, using opposite arms. If you want to get fancy with it, if that messes you up, don't worry about it. 10 of them. And then once we're done 10, we're going to pause here and work with that extension of the leg where we should be really feeling this hip here. And I'm going to kick back 10 times now, just really light on that foot there. And that's just going to reinforce all the things that we're feeling in that backside. So we'll do 10 like that. And then once you guys are done, we'll switch and do the other side. Again, back to this first one, the step through, 10. And then we'll pause once we're done 10, and we'll do our kick back 10. And by then, you should be feeling very warm and active in your backside and your glutes. And very oftentimes with those ones, you simply just have to kind of think about it a little bit more. Focus your effort back there. Okay. Nice work, you guys. So, as we are coming to an end on those ones, you can grab yourself some water if you're already done. We are going to start you guys off with some split squats today. So if you need to grab your bench, your chair, your ottoman, whatever you are using for your back foot elevation for these split squats, that's what's up for this first one. I'm just looking at our program here because I know today was a little different. Yes. Okay. So split squats with the rear foot elevated. What you guys are going to be working with today eventually is holding some weights in our hands or maybe the band wrapped underneath our foot. But for this first set, we are not going to be holding anything. We're just going to be working with our body weight because today you guys are doing 15 reps of these rear foot elevated split squats per leg. So we're going 15, which is a lot of reps, I know. Okay, 15 over here, and then we're going to switch and do 15 on the other side. And you guys are going through 3 more sets after that with little to no rest. We'll talk about the rest once we're there. Just these split squats, okay? Which is why I highly suggest you start off this first set body weight. So let's get this party started. You guys can start your first set right now. Back foot up on whatever you are using, preferably about knee height. And we'll go down to 90 degrees, pushing all the way up to the top, trying to keep all of the weight in that front leg. Going through 15, and then you can switch and do 15 on the other side. And we'll see how that feels. We'll just see how it feels. Okie doke. So it's like bittersweet right now. We're starting with the split squats, which I know they are not the funnest exercise in the world, but when we're starting with that means we are going to be done sooner. So you guys need to get your split squats done right at the beginning, which might be good news for some of us. So like I was saying, we're just doing these split squats. Now, right about now, after you finished your first set, you're most likely feeling a little bit tired, but not the most tired. You most likely could go into your next set, which is exactly what we're going to do, preferably with some resistance in it, because the first set you most likely did body weight. So on this next set, I'm going to add both of my dumbbells in my hands here, and then go right into my second set, 15 per side, holding these guys down here, and then we will do that on both sides. So if you're working with bands, you can have your band around the foot like this, a loop band or a long band, and then you can go through your 15. Okay, so we'll start that right now, that second official set. You guys are going through 4 of these total. So we'll try to keep that in mind as we're going through this. For those of you who do not have any dumbbells, you don't have any bands, just simply make this 15 feel more challenging. You can do that by slowing down, maybe adding a little bit of time at the bottom of that split squat when you're hanging out down there. 15 is most likely pretty challenging for most of us. Okay, so we'll do that on both sides. Right away into that second side, trying to mimic the same thing that you did on the first. And then as you guys are coming to an end, which I'm not quite there yet, but that's okay, we are going to take about 35 to 45 or 30 to 45 seconds of rest. We will try to keep it under a minute, but we'll take at least about 30 seconds here before we go into our next set, okay? Which you're probably feeling thankful for because you're very tired after doing that. So grab yourself some water. You can shake up those legs, walk it off, do whatever you want to do for the next 30 to 45 seconds. And then we will go into 2 more rounds doing the same thing with the same little bout of rest in between, okay? So H2O, think about how that felt. We'll go into our third set, still using those weights for the next 2 of those bands, whatever you guys are choosing to add on there. Okay, so a couple things to talk about these split squats for safety reasons is what's happening with your knees and your hips. As you guys are going down into this, we want to think about pushing the hips back behind us, which is going to allow our knee to stay more upright, our shin to stay more upright, our knee to stay back more, rather than our chest staying up and our knee pushing forward. This is going to put some stress on the knee, no matter what happens, okay? If you have pre-existing stuff, pre-existing injuries or whatever going on, this is not good, all right? So rather than this, you can lead the way by sticking out your butt, pushing your hip back, and you'll actually feel it more in the glute, which is where we want the work anyways, rather than like the quad or around the knee, the front of the thigh, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. You guys can take that into your third set. Get a little bit more butt work out of it. Keep it a little bit more safe on the knees. It's a win-win. So we'll go through our third round. Keeping in mind, we have 1 more after this one, okay? Not too bad. Not too bad. Whoo-wee. There you go. Nice work, you guys. So we'll breathe through these ones. Fifteen of them. Okay, then we'll take some rest. Woohoo! Keep in mind, we do have 1 more set of those ones. Okay, so hopefully you're feeling worked by the end of that 15. Like, you do not want to do more than 15. In fact, you have to stop at 15. If you weren't feeling like that, if it was feeling a little bit easy, which I don't presume is many of you, but you never know. Let's try to make this final set here as challenging as possible. Okay, we're going to have a couple minutes of rest before we start our next part. We really want to earn that rest by making this set feel extremely hard. All right, and that's going to give you more out of this. It's going to make you stronger at these. It's going to make these feel easier, which is always a nice thing to think about. So we'll go into our final set here. Again, if you need a little extra, you can slow that way down and or take some time at the bottom here. So you don't necessarily have to do both. You can sit down and just hold and then push up, or you can slow down and then just push straight up. All right, a little combo of both works well for people who, you know, aren't the best at working slow, because it just guarantees you that you're going to take your time. So we'll get going on our final set here, set number 4, 15 per side, and then we'll be taking a little bit of rest before we start our next part. So we are done this part, the split squats. Woo! Okie doke. Nice work, you guys. You got it going now. Okay. 15 burning reps per side, especially those last 5. Whew, they should feel. So we'll finish up strong. You guys have time with it. We have a couple more minutes here until we really should be starting the next part, so lots of time. So as you do come to an end, you guys can grab some water. Woo! about how good you feel. You feel good because the split squats are done. So don't put anything away. We are going to be needing your bench, your chair, if you have it out. If not, you know I have options for you, which unfortunately I think we'll give you at the beginning there, but hopefully just assume your foot will be on the floor as per usual. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part here, which is a combination of 2 exercises. We have a superset. So the first one is going to be a reverse lunge, a step back lunge. So I'm going to be using both of my dumbbells, holding them in the same way as I did for that first part there, the split squats. Holding them down here, stepping back into a lunge, and then standing and driving my knee up to the top between each rep. So we'll go down like this, and then stand and drive the knee up. We're going to be doing 10 of these per side. So we'll do 10 over here, and then I'll switch and do 10 over here. Supersetting this one with a hip thrust, which is why I have this chair out and close. I'm going to put my upper back on the bench, the chair, and then work with a hip thrust, and then we will talk about the reps when we get there, okay? So let's start off with bells. You can work with your bands in the same way that I suggested for the split squats, anchored around opposite foot, and then we'll go through 10 per side with the knee drive at the top, and a little bit of balance action going on up here, trying to mostly use this front leg. Okay, so that's how we're going to make this harder, and that goes for dumbbells or bands, is by not using the back leg to push ourselves off. So we're really going to try to channel that skater squat energy where we're like letting ourselves down. But you don't have to do it like that. But think about it, and that's going to help you use more of that front standing leg. So we'll do 10 per side. Woohoo! 10 and 10. Okay, that's the blue one, because I'm wearing black pants, which is typical. All right, so we'll do that on both sides. And trying to keep it even on both, 10 and 10. Tapping into that balance, which you're feeling now when you drive that knee up. So we'll go through those. And then we are going right into a superset. Second exercise, which is that hip thrust. Now we have options in terms of resistance. I'm going to use both options. So I'm going to be adding this band around my knees. I'll actually put it on there because I'm using it like this, right above the knees, as well as my weights on my hips. Now, you don't necessarily have to use both of these. The weights on the hips is going to add more direct resistance to like the back side, your butt. The band around the knees is going to get more of like the sides of your hips working. So it typically will make you like feel more kind of on the outsides of your hips. So I'm going to do both of these things. Depending on what you have available, depending on what you normally feel, you can choose either or join me in both. But we're going through a hip thrust. You guys are working with 10 reps total. Okay, so again, lower rep range, we really want to feel these ones. So I'm going to be holding at the top for 2 seconds, and then going down, working with 10. I'm holding and really just squeezing and thinking about what I'm feeling back there. I don't leave the top until I feel. Okay, and 2 seconds is about the amount of time that I like to be up there. But if you need a little longer, feel free to do that. For those of you who don't have the chair or the bench, you are doing the same thing, the same options, down on the floor. Woohoo! Like this. Okay, so same thing. We want to really feel the glutes. And we'll go through 10. And then, once you guys are done, we do have a little bit of rest here because these 2 exercises are similar in what we are working your glutes, the back of your hips. So we will allow those muscles to rest a little bit. So you guys can grab yourself a couple sips of water, take some deep breaths, about 30 seconds. We'll try to keep it under a minute so that we can get through our 3 more sets because we have 4 total in the amount of time that we have allocated. So take some rest. When you are feeling ready, we will go into our second set. Back to that first one, those reverse lunges. So the same rules apply with the positioning of the hips and the positioning of the knee and your shin in terms of that knee safety and that glute focus that I was talking about. If I'm stepping back and I'm kind of staying up like this and my knee is pushing forward, that's putting, again, stress here, work here. That's kind of leaving your butt and glute in the dust. It's not really working it at all. Whereas if I push my hip back and I allow my body to come forward slightly, I'm putting more stretch here. You'll actually feel it more. You can see that my shin stays up. It doesn't push forward like this because it can't because of the way my hips are. So it's, again, going to be safer, more butt focus. So we'll see if we can take that into our second set rather. You guys are on there in a second. And let's do it. So we'll step back and then again drive up. And we'll try our best to not use that back foot. Even try to lift it up off the floor before you're standing all the way up. Seemed like that was easy because it was not easy. Okay, so second set. If you have not started already, let's do it. Let's do it. Good work, you guys. Okay, a little bit of balance action. So in theory, that balancing should be getting a little bit easier as we go through it. If you still are really struggling with balance, what I would suggest you do is slightly just graze something, so that way you can get that benefit of not touching your foot down in between, rather than you not and kind of having a touchdown to touchdown. That putting a foot down really does take a lot of the work off that standing leg. So we'll try to do that through our next couple sets, if you guys have not already. All right, so 10 and 10. It's nice doing 10 reps, okay? I know, but we really do need to make sure that we're making these 10 really hard, challenging them. We're not able to get more than 10. So again, on this next set here, if you need more of that, spend some more time at the top of each of these. You most likely don't have a lot of options in terms of adding weight and more resistance. You probably added all that you have. And so we'll just simply hold up here, even hold upward of like 4 to 5 seconds. The longer time you're putting tension on these muscles, the more you're going to work them, the more strong you're going to get, and all of those things that we want. So we'll go through the second set. Woo! Taking a bit of rest once we're done. You probably feel like you need 2 more sets of this stuff. 2 more rounds. Okay. Hip thrusts. There they are. So again, you guys will rest. Take a little water break. So H2O. 2 more sets to get through. And then one more part of the leg strength, that is. And we got the core, the abs. I realize my camera, my charger is not plugged in. There we go. Okay, so we are resting. Hopefully you guys are feeling good. We're going to go into our third set and we're feeling ready. Definitely within the next 30 seconds. Back to our lunges. Keep in mind those of you who are using bands. If you have more than one, if you add more than one together, it's going to make it that much harder, okay? So if you're feeling like you're doing this tenderness, not the hardest, you can add a second band underneath your foot, especially if you are doing, like the steer squat situation is still not that hard. That is a great thing that you can start to do, is double up those bands that you're using. And that goes for all of the exercises that we use them for. Okay, so we'll get through our third set, 10 and 10. There they are. Nice job, you guys. Okay. So we'll take that both sides, put ourselves down, then back, upper back on the bench. On the chair. If you don't have the chair, you're on the floor here. You want to push our low back into the floor. And then you can go through again, preferably with some weights or some bands. And 10 reps total. So one that I've also talked about kind of in between is being on your back and putting your feet up on like a stool or a stair or something. If you don't have a chair or something soft like that on the top. And kind of an in-between doing it with your back up like this and down on the floor, because this is going to be more challenging, more involved, it's a bigger range of motion, whereas this one is less of all of that. And so the feet up is kind of in between. So let's just don't have a chair, whatever it is. Okay, so we have one more round to do, and then we're done this stuff. We're done the lunges, the hip thrusts, although there's a different variation of them up next, okay? So grab yourself some water once you're done. Take a couple deep breaths. Ponder your life for a minute, less than a minute. We'll get going into our final set here. So same thing as I always say when we approach these last sets of these supersets that we do. We want to get the most out of this. Okay, we don't like wasting our time. I don't, I know you don't. So let's try our best to have this final set feel extremely challenging, okay? Because when we're working with this lower rep range, this 10 rep range, it's a little different than when we're doing our 15s. 15s, most likely they just burn because we're doing so many reps. Whereas the 10s, they're meant for more strength focus. And so we have to tap into that strength by making these movements really hard, all right? So let's try to do that on this last set. 10 reps per side, followed by 10 of those hip thrusts. And I want you thinking like, I cannot do 11. I do not want to do 11. Maybe you could, but you know that they wouldn't be pretty. That's what I want you thinking in the back of your head on this final set. Okay, so let's do it. Going through our last set, 10 per side. Okay, regardless if you're holding those weights, doing those skater squats, whatever you got going on, let's get it, you guys. Final round. When you're feeling ready, which hopefully within the next minute, because we have about 3 minutes until we are going to start talking about the final parts of our leg strength. Woohoo! Okay. So let's get it. Final 70s ones. We got it going on. Nice work, you guys. Driving that knee up. We got it. 10 per side. Lovely. Taking your sweet time with it. 10 and 10. Nice job. Okay. So we'll try to keep that as even as possible on both sides. And we will hustle right into those hip thrusts. Sometimes it can be kind of easy to take our time, but we'll try to get going right into these ones. Finishing up nice and strong. We have just over about a minute left to get through our final set. So we'll get the most out of this. We'll push the knees out and again, not leave the top until you feel your glutes. And that goes for any version. The one on the floor, the one up here with your feet up does not matter. That's something that you need to think about on all these options is contracting your glutes, doing that pelvic tilt, bringing your ribs and pelvis together, all of that stuff. Let's get it. And then we got this final part coming up. Woo-hoo-hoo. Nice work, my friends. Get it. Final set of them. 10 of them. It feels like we just did 20 because we made them feel so hard. Okay, so once you are done, yay, you should be feeling all that back there. If you're not, you definitely will be feeling it on the next part, okay? Grab some water, stand up, walk it off, but you will be back down there because our last tricep, we have 3 exercises that we're going to do circuit style. So there's not going to be any reps. We're just going to go through the reps of each exercise and just circuit them out 4 rounds total, okay? First one is going to be a single leg hip thrust. So it's a single leg version of what you guys just did. Now, what I want you to do is just pick the version that you did, whether it was with the one on your floor, the one on the bench, and we are going to start there and work with 10 reps per side. Okay, so this is the first one. I'm going to show you the other 2 as we go through this so that we can get started, so that we can finish. Okay, so we're going to start off with our single leg hip thrust. You can get yourself into that same position, narrow feet. Okay, and that also applies if your back is on the floor. We want our legs, like feet almost touching together, our knees touching. we're going to push up to the top and make sure that we're kind of crunching our core so that we're not arching our back like this. Okay, we want to slightly crunch it in, lift up a leg, and then we'll go down and up 10 times on this side, trying to keep this knee driven up to our chin. 10 of them, and then we'll switch, and you can do 10 on this side. Okay, so let's start here. Again, all of that still applies if you're down on the floor. It's actually easier to do with the back down and the crunching of the core. And then we can go through these ones. You should feel your low back touch rather than the back of your hip each rep. Okay, so we'll go through 10 and 10. Now, for most of us, this is going to be pretty hard, all right? But if you're finding that it's not that challenging, I'm going to show you on the next set how to add your equipment into it, whether it's your dumbbells and or your bands, okay? But that's the first one, 10 and 10, and then you can stand up with me here. Second one we're going to do is a static side lunge. So we're going to get ourselves into this nice wide stance position. For this first set, again, we're going to start off body weight. I'll show you guys the equipment option up next. Over to one side, just go as low as I'm comfortable with, and then come all the way up to the top, hips back, and start bending over, knee out to the other side, and then up to the top. That was 2. We are doing 10 total, 5 per side, getting that stretch in the inner thigh, and then the work on the hip as we push up. So you should feel it over here, pushing up to the top. Same rules apply with the hips. We want your hips driven back so that the knee and the shin stay in this position, not drive forward like this. Okay, so 10 total, 5 per side, not 20. Okay, don't accidentally do 10 per side, just 5 per side. Okay, so that is our second one. We have one more that we are going to do this one, which is a squat variation. You guys are going to be holding weights, and we're going to go right into holding the weights if you have them. Front loaded here. You guys do not have dumbbells, you can grab your band and put it around your knees for a little banded knee action. We're working with our 5x5 squats where we're going to sit down and pulse 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1, and I'm doing that 5 times. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 2. And I have 3 more to do. You guys can join me here. And if your dumbbells are too heavy, you can also go 1. If you don't have dumbbells, hands are just at our chest like this. And we're doing the same thing. Okay, so let's get it. 5 pulses at the bottom of each rep. We're doing 5 reps total. And if you guys want, you can do this with or without the weights. Bands around the knees. Okay, that's going to add resistance. Knees want to come in. We have to use the glutes, the butt, to keep the knees out. So if you want that, you can add that in. So, like I said at the very beginning, you guys are doing the circuit stops. We're going right into our second set, back to those hip thrusts, 10, 10. We have our static side lunges, which means our feet are going to stay in place. We're just moving side to side, 10 total. And then these 5x5 squats. Let's get it. Second set. So we'll get set up, narrow feet, strong core, and start our second set of these hip thrusts. So if you're feeling like you're doing this one, especially with your back up on the chair, and you feel like you can't really get your hips all the way up, one that I've talked about recently is the staggered stance, where I put this foot down, but I lift up onto the heel, so I'm not actually putting too much weight on it, but I am using it slightly to assist the single leg hip thrust. So if you're feeling like you can't get to full extension, aka your hips all the way up like this, that's a problem, and you might have a better chance doing it with this kickstand or staggered stance position. So you can try that if you need to. Because if your hips aren't pushing all the way up, you're not getting that full squeeze, that full contraction on the glute, you're not actually working that back there, okay? So 10 and 10. Woo! Oh, so sorry, you guys. If you wanted to add weights to that one, kind of left you hanging there, but hopefully assume that we're just going to hold that weight on our hip like this, okay? So for our second one, definitely would recommend, if you have dumbbells, we can hold them down in the front like this, and then they'll sit inside the knee. Between each of those side lunges, sit inside. which will make us push our knee out more. And then again, 10 total, 5 per side. If you guys are working with bands, we can add that resistance between our hands, which helps us involve more through the upper body, makes it feel a lot more challenging. Okay, let's do it. Woo, and then those squats. So these ones, they're mostly just hard, okay? But if you do want to make them a little bit more challenging, you can increase the range of each of your pulses. So as we sit down, if you make those pulses bigger, rather than just little ones like this, if you come all the way up like this, it's more work. By the end of the set, once you do that 5 and 5, you're going to feel much more work, if that's something that you want. All right, but keep in mind you have 2 more rounds after this one. And lots of time to do it. You have about 6 minutes. Finish her up. All right, you guys, here we go, set number 3. So we'll get going into those single leg hip thrusts. So much harder than they look, I know. So especially with these ones, remember that your breath, your exhale is your power, okay? Especially on this single leg one, because it's probably the hardest one of these ones. Every time you push your hips up, try to breathe out. See if that helps you in getting your hips up a little bit higher and getting you to that position where you can actually feel that squeeze going on, which happens at the top there. So we'll see if that helps us. We'll do our thing here. So 10 and 10. Okay. Good job, guys. Let's get it. Let's do it. So we'll get you going on those side lunges. So you've spent some time talking about these side lunges, but I want to remind you guys that these should feel comfortable, okay? They should not feel like pinchy or like you are overstretching anything or like, bad in any ways. If you're feeling that, any of that, then we'll just adjust you a little bit, okay? So set up wherever you are. If you're feeling that, what we're going to do on your first couple reps is kind of find your positioning. So you can hold your weights or not if you want to, it doesn't matter. We'll sink the hips again back over to one side, and then when you're down here, you can adjust. You can adjust the angle of your feet, either of them, the width of your feet. You might want to go a little bit wider. We want the knee to sit above the ankle, and then the rest is just comfort, okay? The hips have to be traveling in that backward, forward position, but everything else, if you want to widen up your feet, if you want to angle out your toes more or less, completely up to you, okay? So let's take that into this third set. Getting that little sneaky mobility work in the inner thighs. A little stretching action. Feels kind of nice, but equally not as nice because you should feel the work in that one as well. And then we'll go into our squats here with the 5 pulses at the bottom. Okay, so maybe you want to make those pulses a little bit bigger on this third set. If you felt like it was a bit easy, let them know. We'll see. One more set after this one, and then we are done our leg strength for the Monday. Woo! 5 and 5. It's funny, it sounds so nice. 5 reps. Then you do these 5 pulses at the bottom. It just does not feel so nice. But you are almost done. Okay, so let's get these ones done. Once we're finished here, we'll try our very best to just conjure up the strength that we have left and get going right into our final set. Okay, you guys have one more round of these ones. The hip thrusts, okay, the side lunges, and the squats. And then we are hanging out on the floor, okay, working our core, our abs for the last 10 minutes of the class. A couple quick stretches at the end. But it is the home stretch now, which usually is when our body starts to, get tired. We start to compensate and not do things as strong. So it's even more important that you finish up strong in this final set because, you're getting tired. So let's get going into our Set number 4 for hip thrust, and every single rep we're exhaling, trying to push our hips up to that very top position every time. So you only have 10 of them. So we want to make sure that we get all 10 as high as we can. Oh, yes. Nice work, you guys. Woo! So, side lunges. Coming up next, we're going to give you about 3 more minutes until we will be starting the final part here. So we'll give you about 2 more to finish this part up. There it is. Good job, you guys. Woo! Hip thrusts are done. All of them. The double leg ones, the single leg ones. So we'll get going on our side lunges up next. A nice strong core. Try to think about pushing your hips back a little bit more. Seeing if you can get down to 90 degrees at the knee here. And we'll go through our 10 total, 5 per side. Final set of the side lunges. There it is. Good work, you guys. Okay, 10 total. Let's do it. All right. Woo! Finishing up with squats. So let's get them sitting down, pulsing through those 5 reps. And remembering the slower we go, the more time we have under tension on our muscles, the harder. So we'll really try to take our time in this final set, specifically on the way down, on those pulses. We can still try to exhale and power out of it with our breath through those 5 reps. Okay. So, do your thing here, you guys. 5 of them. Good job. 5 by 5. Yay! Almost there. We're breathing through the last couple. Once you guys are done, you can put yourself down, grab yourself some water, shake out those legs for the very last time because we are working the core and the abs until the very end here. Okay, so we are going to take a couple deep breaths. You need to, take a second here, grab some water. You guys have about 2 minutes until I'm going to press start on the timer because it takes about 10 minutes, and that is just over the amount of time that we have left. Let me just make sure we are set up here. In the meantime, you guys can clear your space. I've moved my chair out of the way because I'm not going to be using it. I'd rather have a little bit more room here. In addition to that, I will not be using any other equipment. We are strictly just body weight for this little core circuit that we're going to do here. You guys are going to be working off of a timer, 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. We have 3 exercises. We're doing 4 sets of them. So we're going to talk about the first one, start the timer, do it for 40 seconds, and then we'll have 20 seconds in between them where I will explain the next 2, and then we'll repeat 4 sets total. Okay, are you guys ready? So let's get down onto the floor, starting off with our first one, which is going to be on our back, which is our knee to elbow crunches. So this is one that we have been incorporating in. Let me just make sure our timer, and it is set for a minute. That would not be good. I mean, it would feel good, but maybe it wouldn't feel good. Okay, 12, perfect. All right, so we're gonna lay on our back. This is the first one. Hands are going to be behind our back, supporting our neck. Legs are lifted up into this 90-degree position. We're going to push our back down into the floor and attempt to lower our legs, keeping them bent while keeping our back down. And then I'll exhale and try to bring my knees and elbows together. And so this is our first one, and we're going to do this for 40 seconds, starting in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So if that's too challenging, if you can't keep your back down, don't worry about lowering your legs. Just worry about moving your shoulder blades on and off the floor. So you want the shoulders to leave, shoulders to stay, and we'll work this one. Eventually, you can add in the lifts of the legs, and then eventually you can bring it all together, okay? So we'll work through exhaling as we come up and together. 10 seconds left, you guys. You got this one. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, so next one are our flutter kicks. So this one, I'm going to take my hands and put them on the floor and kind of rock my hips right and left so I get some support with my arms around the sides of my hips. We'll lift up the legs, straighten them out, push our lower back into the floor, and then we're going to lower until we're challenged. So some of us might stop here, some of us might go down further. Wherever you are, we have to keep the back down, and then we're going to start to kick the legs. So I'll kick them up and down in these little flutters. Most important is keeping your lower back into the floor. So if that's not happening, we'll lift the legs up, okay? Because it's not worth it to be down here with this big space in our back. It's actually really unsafe, okay? So tighten it up and bring them up, and then just work with a challenging point that you find, okay? So you're just about there. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, last one, we're going to flip over into our plank position. You guys are going to be holding a plank hold for the last 40 seconds. Now, for some of us, normal plank hold is going to be, not the hardest thing in the world, but if it is, then I want you guys to just hold it. If you have a feeling it's not, then you can try this. Here we go. So we're holding. We're going to lift opposite arm and opposite leg. Okay? Now, if that's too hard for you, you can start with just the arms or just the legs. And then eventually, you can add them in together, the opposite and the opposite. Okay? But hopefully, again, I made that look easy. It is not easy, okay? It's actually really freaking hard. So if you need to, stop doing it and just hold the plank, because that's the most important. And we have 10 more seconds left to hold it, to breathe through it. 3, 2, 1, and nice work, you guys. Okay, we are back on our backs for the first one, which is our knee elbow crunches. So take a couple deep breaths. You're going to lift up those legs, squish that back down. Wait for the timer to go off in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So we'll exhale and bring it together. Inhale, open it up. Okay, then if that's too hard, you can forget the legs. Do a little mix of them to make it possible for you to keep your back down, okay, because that is the most important part here. Okay, 15 seconds left. Now, I totally realize you guys are probably going to be happy with me. I told you 4 rounds, but it's actually 3 rounds. I'm looking at our timer right now. 3 exercises, 3 rounds. This is your second of 3 sets, so it's probably good news. 3, 2, and a rest. Good job, you guys. Okay, so you are going to have to do this one more time after this. Second exercise are our flutter kicks. So again, we'll support those hips, try to pull the shoulders down into the floor, straighten out the legs, point the toes, push the back down, and then we'll lower until we find that challenging point in which we will hold and try to flutter kick those legs, little kicks up and down. Okay, and if you can't keep your back down, bring them up. And you might find that as you go through your set, you're starting to get tired, you're starting to feel like that achy pain in your low back. That's how you make this easier, is by lifting the feet a bit more closer over top of your body. 15 more seconds, you guys. We got this. We do. Nice work. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice work. Okay, so we're going to flip over into our plank position. We're going to hold that plank hold for 40 seconds. Starting in 10. Okay, so I haven't started yet, but get ready to. Okay, so strong plank. Holding in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So at least a plank hold. Okay, if you are struggling with even that, remember that the wider the feet, the easier. So if you are not going to make it in that plank, you can try widening up your feet a little bit. Right? You'll be able to do kind of a combo. You have to widen them out. You can bring them back in. You can widen them out again. Okay, you're more than halfway there. We have 15 seconds left. We have one more set after this. Then we are done. Sneaky 3 sets. Okay, but we're holding here for 3, 2, 1, and nice job, you guys. Oh, okay. Final set. Yay! Last one. So we're gonna get you guys going here on our last set of this ab blast circuit here. You should be feeling all the things in your core and abs. Laying on our back, knee elbow crunches. Are you ready? Well, get ready, get set, and here we go. This is it. So we'll try to really get the most out of this one by trying to lower those legs, but again, not compromising that low back, being squished tightly down to the floor the whole time. Never leaves. Maybe just on that 20 seconds of rest, okay? But besides that, that lower back should be tight to the floor. 15 seconds left. Nice work, you guys. Okay, so shoulder blades leaving, you got it. Breathing. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Awesome job. Okay, don't go anywhere. We'll walk those hands in, support those hips with the arms, the hands. We're going to work with those flutter kicks starting in 10 seconds. So take a couple deep breaths. We'll lift up those legs starting 3, 2, and here we go. So we'll find that point and then we'll work with those little flutters. Trying to keep those legs as straight as possible. Okay? Straight legs. I'd rather have your legs up here and straight than down here and bent on this one. Okay? 20 seconds. You guys are more than halfway. Woo! There it is. Breathing through this one. So you can make those legs a little bit lower, just in that uncomfortable point where you don't really want to put them. That's where we want them. 5 more seconds there. 3, 2, 1, rest. Okay, last one. Good plank. Best for last. Okay, so we're going to finish off with the plank, which I know is most definitely going to be the hardest thing. Okay, so we are going to hold this for 40 seconds, no matter what. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, and plank hold. Okay, some form of the plank, preferably down on those forearms, preferably with you lifting your opposite arm leg. But I get it, okay? It's really hard, all right? So when in doubt, just don't let your knees touch down. Do not give up on that plank. Halfway, you guys. You got this. We are so close. 15 seconds left. Take about 3 more nice deep breaths, and we will be there. Holding it here. 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, and resting for the very last time. Nice work, you guys. Okay, now, since you're down here, you can bring yourself up into this position here, and we're going to get a little bit of this cat-cow action going to stretch out our lower back and our core. So you can arch your back, looking up, round your back, looking down, and we'll do that a few times each way. Arching and rounding. And then we'll sit onto those heels when you guys are ready and walk those hands away into this child's pose position, which is an awesome stretch for your back, the entire upper back, lower back, the back of your hips. If you have sensitive knees, what I would suggest is going to like a chair or a couch and putting your hands up on there so that we don't bend our knees as much. You can just keep your butt kind of lifted up in the air like this. So this is the first one. 2 more that I'm going to suggest you guys do. The hip flexor stretch, you probably saw this one coming. So we'll definitely spend some time stretching out the hips, as we did have some hip flexor work in that core circuit that we just did there, and our legs and all of that. So about 60 seconds per side will do you awesome. And if you have time, if you can make time, you can come back and do this one 2 to 3 times per side. That's going to be even better. Okay, so we'll do one side here. We're going to hold this for 60 seconds. And that is, I don't know if you guys can hear that, it's my nephew downstairs screaming away. He's awake now. It's a pro day today. So we're gonna hold this here for about 10 more seconds. If you want a little bit more stretch, you can squeeze this butt back here and or extend your arm up above you, okay? But you don't have to if you're feeling that nice stretch. So we'll take one more deep breath and then we'll switch sides. I'm gonna just turn around so I can show you guys what's happening with the hips, which is that same kind of pelvic tilt situation. And we are going to hold this here. So same stretching, same feeling on that hip there. If you want a little extra, you can activate your glutes. Reach your arm over your head. Should not be painful though, you guys. Should just feel tight, just a little bit of tension. So front of the hips, arguably more important to stretch than the back of your hips, but that is the next one that I'm going to leave you guys with, is your glute stretch. So once you're done this one, again, I would suggest you come back here, but you can do this one first and then come back and do a second or maybe third set of that one. This one here, putting your ankle on opposite knee, reaching and grabbing, pulling this leg in. This is going to give us a nice stretch down this side of the hip here. You can also go up against the wall, which we've talked about before, and put the foot on the wall. And it's just kind of like a lazier, more comfortable version where you don't have to pull your leg in, okay? So same thing here. We'll try to hold each side for 60 seconds. And then once you guys are done, about a minute per side, if you know that you get a little tight in your hips, maybe you have a tight low back, doing more sets of this one and that one will help both of those things, okay? So, yay. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Bobby, for joining me in the Zoom room. Woo-hoo-hoo, you rock. Hopefully you have a great day. And if you guys watch the replay, drop a comment below so I know you were here. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.